Since 1993, the Massachusetts Most Endangered Historic Resources List has been the core advocacy and education program of Preservation Massachusetts. By utilizing our statewide visibility, we spotlight the resource, its challenges, promote its importance, and draw upon our resources, staff, and networks to work with the nominators and other partners cooperatively toward a positive outcome. Over the past 25 years, the program has listed 221 resources, including landscapes, buildings, and bridges, to unique structures and important programs. We have learned a lot over the past quarter century and are constantly reworking the program and our approach to better assist the listed resources and statewide preservation efforts as a whole. This evening, Preservation Massachusetts is recognizing 11 historic resources facing threats ranging from neglect, vacancy, policy issues, to outright demolition. Though the resources differ in size, type, and shape, they all share a common need: the need for their story to be told. The need to shine a spotlight on not just their plight, but on their potential, their significance, their community, and the people working toward making something positive happen. And that's just what this year's list and the Most Endangered program is about: positivity and preservation. The stories of our individual resources intertwine to form the larger message of the program and reinforce our organization's own mission of actively promoting preservation as a positive force, a benefit to communities, and a planning tool for our future. Arlington High School is buffered from Massachusetts Avenue by green space and contributes to a streetscape consisting of different buildings from different eras. The high school complex includes the 1914 Fusco Building and the 1932 Collomb Building. For several years, there have been growing concerns and discussions around the need to renovate the facility to better serve the needs of 21st century students. A proposed plan was announced at the beginning of summer vacation in June of 2018. This proposed plan demolishes the existing school and builds a new facility on the current front lawn. If approved by the Massachusetts School Building Authority, the town meeting vote would happen in the spring of 2019, with construction to commence in 2020. Many residents feel that a revised plan that incorporates the historic buildings into a new design and preserves the current green space would much better suit the educational needs and history of their town. The situation in Arlington highlights the statewide threat to historic school buildings under the current MSBA regulations, which include rigid timelines and procedures which do not correlate with preservation review at the state level. In addition, once designs are approved, no changes can be made. Previous policies to encourage preservation were removed in 2006, and the listing of Arlington High School is a fitting example of why the impact of current regulations on historic schools should be revisited. In the mid to late 19th century, when traffic was increasing along America's railways, structures like the Attleboro switch tower were necessary to house the interlocking machinery used by operators to keep trains on the right tracks and prevent collisions. The Attleboro switch tower is one of only a few wood towers remaining. In addition to its character-defining Queen Anne-style elements, the switch tower retains its historic electro-mechanical equipment. Located alongside train tracks that are owned by the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority and leased to Amtrak, the tower no longer serves its original function. Sitting vacant, compromised, and damaged by weather and vandalism, there is concern that the tower could be demolished for safety reasons. Since 2008, a group of local, state, and federal stakeholders have attempted to find an agreeable resolution to the future of the switch tower. A group of local citizens, called Save the Attleboro Switch Tower, believe it can have a useful future serving the community in another location. In 2016, the MBTA and Amtrak offered to relocate the tower, contingent on the creation of a business plan and committed financial resources. However, without those, the future of the tower continues to be uncertain. Tucked away in the heart of downtown Great Barrington, the Clinton A.M.E. Zion Church is a distinctive example of 19th century vernacular church architecture. Dedicated in 1887, the church served as the spiritual, cultural, and political home for the local African American community for nearly 130 years. It is historically significant for its association with author and civil rights leader W.E.B. DuBois, a Great Barrington native who has been called the premier architect of the civil rights movement in the United States. The church is the only extant building associated with his formative years. When the Clinton Church was put up for sale in 2016, it had been unused for several years and was structurally compromised. There was concern within the community that the building would be lost to demolition and development. In late 2016, the nonprofit group Clinton Church Restoration was formed to save, preserve, and repurpose the now deconsecrated church. They rallied to raise funds and purchased the property in 2017. Their vision is to have the site serve as an African American heritage and visitor center that will interpret the legacy of W.E.B. DuBois and tell the story of the church's 130-year history, its first female pastor, and the local African American community. But given the building's structural issues and ongoing deterioration, costs are substantial to complete necessary work as well as move forward with plans for future use. If the stabilization is not completed, an important touchstone of African American history and culture in Massachusetts could be lost. Echo Bridge was built in 1876 to carry the Sudbury Aqueduct over the Charles River. It spans Newton into Needham and is a popular and well-utilized community asset. Many citizens walk on the pedestrian promenade atop the bridge, which is graced by ornamental cast iron railings. The railings serve as an important interaction point between the pedestrian and the bridge. However, at over 140 years old, the railings are unfortunately dilapidated and unsafe. Previous attempts to fix the railings have not been successful and have even hastened the deterioration. Currently, a new code-compliant interior railing has been installed, allowing the promenade to remain open with the original railing tethered to the outside of the new railing and inaccessible to the public. At a future date, when the historic railings and posts are restored, the new code-compliant interior railing can be removed and its panels incorporated into the historic railings, thus making the restored railings both code-compliant and available for public access. The bridge's owner, the Massachusetts Water Resource Authority, has been working with the Echo Bridge Railing Committee and others to raise the necessary $1.5 million to restore the railings and posts. A collaborative and positive partnership is essential in this endeavor, as the bridge spans two communities. Advocates hope that raising awareness will help build a strong case for funding the restoration of the railings, which will honor the original bridge design. In Massachusetts, and throughout New England, historic stone walls represent the most abundant and visible evidence of our local agricultural heritage. Yet, the walls are rarely considered for their significance, or respected for their contribution to our historic landscape. Stone walls were constructed as settlers enclosed lands to establish boundaries with their neighbors, restrict the extent to which their animals could forage, and also to clear lands for cultivation and grazing fields. The many walls built on the Massachusetts landscape delineate historic agricultural land uses and provide an irreplaceable record of the lifeways which formed the foundation of New England society from the 16th through the 19th centuries. While culturally iconic, there is little protection for historic stone walls, and what does exist is seldom enforced. As agricultural land is developed and disappears, these tangible touchstones to centuries long past are in danger as well. Designation as an endangered presents an opportunity to not only elevate awareness around the issue of historic stone walls, but also to encourage broader policies about significance and protections for such landscape features, and to promote collaborative program initiatives such as documentation, mapping, and protection. The Grand Army of the Republic Memorial Building is one of Lynn's most important historic resources. Constructed in 1887 as a private fraternal club, it served many veterans of the Civil War and housed the largest GAR chapter in the country. The Romanesque Revival-style building houses offices and retail space, but its most important asset is Fellowship Hall, a stunning assembly and exhibition space that has remained virtually unchanged since the turn of the 20th century. Despite a severe lack of financial resources available from the City of Lynn, the stabilization and phased restoration of the GAR building has been underway for at least a decade. Most work has been accomplished through small grant-supported projects. The end goal is to have the original storefronts that provide leasable retail space while maintaining museum and community space in the upper stories. There is hope that this listing will support efforts to secure necessary funding to complete the restoration of the building, as well as the historic collection maintained in the museum. The City of Lynn is supportive of the designation as a means to raise additional awareness and funds for this important project. The J.R. Alley Brewery in Boston's Mission Hill neighborhood is distinct for its ornate architecture and its contribution to the history of breweries in the area. Named after its owner, John R. Alley, the brewery was one of the most technologically advanced when it was constructed in 1885, and it was known for its production of Eblana Irish Ale. Surrounded by modest 2- and 3-family houses, the brewery's imposing height and iconic facade mark it as a landmark in the community. In 2013, plans for the brewery's demolition were announced to make way for the construction of housing. While demolition has not occurred, the property continues to sit and further deteriorate. Without any clear planned use for the building, community members are concerned for the future of the site and feel it has great potential for a restoration and adaptive reuse project. Working collaboratively with the owner and other community stakeholders could result in some creative opportunities for this iconic brewery. The calf pasture pumping station buildings are the visible manifestation of one of Boston's great technological innovations in the field of metropolitan public utilities, a regional system of interceptor sewers to keep raw sewage out of the Back Bay and Boston's Inner Harbor. Designed by George Albert Clough, an architect of large public projects and institutional buildings, the calf pasture pumping station was completed in 1883 and functioned for over a century, standing as a visible symbol of an otherwise invisible pioneering underground system of international renown. Changes in the pumping station's surrounding landscape and the lack of either a proposed use or any stabilization plan for this monumental granite building make its future uncertain. The pumping station is located at the entrance to the campus of the University of Massachusetts, Boston, on Columbia Point, and is adjacent to facilities such as the John F. Kennedy Library and the Edward M. Kennedy Institute. Surrounded by new building and investment, the pumping station's deteriorated state and lack of a clear plan for its future are all the more evident. On October 9th, the Boston Landmarks Commission voted to accept the calf pasture pumping station petition for further study. This could result in designation of the pumping station as a Boston landmark. Community members hope that spotlighting this important and unique part of Boston's past will rally efforts for its stabilization, restoration, and reuse, while encouraging possible collaborative efforts by UMass Boston and others to explore creative restoration and reuse scenarios. Though two separate properties, the columns and the pillars are two historic homes that share a history, architectural significance, and connection to Dennis's maritime past and potential for the future. They epitomize the grand displays of wealth that local sea captains made with their residences in the mid-19th century. The Columns is one of the best-known landmarks in West Dennis. Its most iconic feature is the ornate, fluted Ionic columns that adorn the front facade. The columns were transported to Cape Cod from Boston when Captain Obed Baker built the house in 1861. In the 1960s and 70s, the property was a popular restaurant known for jazz music. Despite several attempts to restore and revive the property with a new use, nothing has been successful. The columns sit vacant, but has potential for creative collaboration that could result in the property being rehabilitated and adapted for a new use. Just a short distance away, The Pillars is a private home located within the South Dennis Local Historic District. The house was constructed by Captain Obed Baxter Weldon and was allegedly inspired by the grand mansions he saw while sailing along the Hudson River. The home's most striking feature is the full two-story Greek temple front that includes fluted Doric columns. The house has deteriorated over the past several years and has been vacant also. Recently, neighbors began to express concerns about the house. Damage from winter storms in 2018 resulted in the collapse of one of the front pillars. But there is hope that by working with the owner to understand the home's significance and identifying available resources, that a viable preservation solution can be found. In 1939, a Works Progress Association project created a town hall and auditorium in New Salem that truly was a combination of old and new. The building was constructed with local materials, as well as materials salvaged from the town halls of Enfield, Dana, Prescott, and Greenwich. Millington, a village of New Salem, also contributed materials from Moore Hall. These four towns were lost, and New Salem forever altered by the loss of its most populous village when the Commonwealth of Massachusetts created the Quabbin Reservoir in the 1930s. The use of the lost town's materials in the creation of a new hall keeps their history and presence alive today. For nearly 60 years, the New Salem Town Hall and Auditorium was in regular use, but the proposed cost to bring the building up to meet modern building codes and accessibility requirements has been prohibitive. As a result, the use of the building has declined, and it is not open on a regular basis. The community has made it clear that they would like to have the building return to active, year-round use. Members of the New Salem Historical Commission, working in partnership with the Board of Selectmen, have begun the task of planning for the project, looking for funding, and working to ensure the future of this important building. This listing may help to raise awareness of this unique and important resource and its place in Massachusetts history. But if the restoration project does not proceed, the future of the Town Hall and Auditorium will be in jeopardy. The 2018 Massachusetts Most Endangered Historic Resources not only tell important stories from the past, they represent opportunity for the future. Opportunities to invest, to get creative, to advocate, to educate, and to believe. Preservation Massachusetts looks forward to working with the nominators, owners, and other stakeholders for each of this year's listed resources as priority projects. Each resource is unique, so too is our collaboration with them as we work to bring guidance, resources, information, and technical assistance to aid on their path to a positive outcome. We hope to share some success stories and updates with you in the coming months and years. The path to preservation is not a straight road. It can be daunting, and it takes a long time. But with a clear vision, a collaborative approach, and above all, belief, anything can be accomplished. Thank you for believing in preservation.